This photo was widely shared on the internet with the question, why aren't the media releasing the photos of police officer Darren Wilson's injuries? Because this is not Darren Wilson. It's motocross rider Jim McNeil, and the photo was posted back in 2006. We not only found the original website, we tracked down his girlfriend who confirmed she snapped the photo. McNeil died in another motorcycle crash 3 years before the Ferguson shooting.
Once people have heard a rumor and have chosen to sort of identify with it, to believe in it, they tend to have a very difficult time letting go of it.
Barbara Mickelson co-founded Snopes.com. She spent 20 years researching urban legends, but now there's something new.
There's a proliferation and a growing proliferation of these fake news sites.
The National Report, Empire News, The Daily Current, and others quietly claim to be satire sites, but they create serious-looking, completely made-up articles known as clickbait. Fake news stories created solely for the purpose of going viral.
There will be something in these stories that pushes one's buttons, that sort of angries up the blood, that sort of offends your innate sense of right and wrong. And once that button is pushed, it tends to override the desire to check the information to make sure that it's accurate, and instead it sort of impels one to send it to everyone you know.
This is a perfect example of an intentionally fake news story. Note the headline, George Zimmerman arrested while visiting Ferguson. That never happened. It starts with a viral story, but how does it get spread? Like a virus, when you and I click the share button. Check out over here, more than 500,000 shares on Facebook and then 335,000 likes. Those are only the direct shares and direct tweets, nearly 2,500. Not counting all the retweets, and then shares of shares on Facebook and email.
It is very easy for the fake news stories to get out there very quickly now, and thanks to especially social media, to be spread almost in the blink of an eye.
I was thinking about two-story ideas.
Real newsrooms have a tradition of robust discussion of possible news stories.
So if we want to reach out to him, he hasn't talked to anyone yet.
There's skepticism.
I think we're making them out to be something that they're not.
And debate.
They do this all the time, and now it's a big deal, then maybe.
And that's before an experienced journalist hits the streets to find out what really happened. News moves fast, but more important than speed or sensationalism are accuracy and credibility. Yet we're often competing against thousands of copies of the same false rumor.
It doesn't matter. Repetition creates truth.
Police and protesters clash on the streets of a Midwestern city. This is not Ferguson 2014, but Cincinnati 2001. Did this city ever heal? What can we learn from the lessons of Cincinnati?
The best lesson for Ferguson at that point is to be prepared, but to be prepared in with measured response. Otherwise, this whole thing could turn into a terrible war zone.
Photojournalist Michael Keating literally wrote the book on Cincinnati's response after separate police shootings led to the deaths of 13 young African-American men.
Split second, officer draws a gun, bam, 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 dead man on the street. I kept shooting pictures.
It happened here on Race Street at the intersection of anger and frustration. There was a collision here between black protesters and an overwhelmingly white police force.
This was frustration. These were people that were just tired of feeling like they were living under the thumb of a group or a police force that didn't represent them very well.
Some had their hands in the air only because they were holding signs that read "Don't shoot," a message that would echo in Ferguson some 13 years later. In the intervening years, virtually all traces of the Cincinnati uprising have vanished. But there are echoes here too on Race Street, in a city that remains racially divided and voluntarily segregated.
Over the long haul, what's going to help Ferguson heal is that everybody in Ferguson has got to get comfortable with talking with everybody else in Ferguson.
Longtime Cincinnati news anchor Clyde Gray says Ferguson can learn a lot from what his city did right, successfully diversifying its police force and creating a citizens' complaint authority. Now, 1 out of every 3 police officers here is African American, including the last 2 chiefs. Black and white images like this are now history.
When there's an officer-involved incident, there is someone from outside of the department looking at it, along with intra-departmental resources looking at it.
Gray still looks at Cincinnati through the lens of what happened here in 2001, and the conversation about race issues still unresolved.
You protest, okay, that's fine. But at some point in time, somebody's got to hear what you're saying in your protest. You will turn a deaf ear to the protesters, but at some point in time, you've got to listen to somebody who has an experience different than yours if you're going to be an advocate for calm and healing in that community. And that's what they need, calm and healing.
Follows some of the same blueprint that they used in Cincinnati, where you create a dialogue in the community.
When the grand jury decision comes back, whatever it is, that's going to be a pain point, and there's no way around it that I can see. But over time, as cool and calm heads assert themselves, there's got to be some conversation and some collaborative conversation in that community so this doesn't happen again. And if they manage that right, they may be able to forestall a future crisis.
A city can heal. The epicenter of the 2001 protests is now the heart of Cincinnati's urban renaissance. And now people are starting to talk with each other here on Race Street.
When I do get locked up and I go to court, they want you to pay a certain fine that I cannot afford to pay. I got a family. And because I can't pay that fine, I'm forced to be locked back up. And when I don't go back to court, there's another $100 added. So there's no way I can get out of it.
Robert Williams' story is a familiar one to attorney Thomas Harvey, the founder of Arch City Defenders. His nonprofit provides legal assistance to clients who are poor.
I've seen people in court say, I'm homeless. I've been living in Larry Rice shelter. I don't have the money. And the courts say, we want the money. Now at that point, you cross the line into something that's unlawful. You cross the line into something that is a debtor's prison.
In a 37-page report that's getting national attention, Arch City Defenders says that half of the municipal courts in St. Louis County engage in illegal and harmful practices. The Arch City study goes on to say, for many of the poorest citizens of the region, the municipal courts and police departments inflict a kind of low-level harassment involving traffic stops, court appearances, high fines, and the threat of jail for failure to pay. Ferguson, Florissant, and Bell Ridge are the communities singled out in the report.
Since I've been doing this work, my clients have said to me, this is not about public safety, this is about the money.
According to the study, in 2013, the second biggest source of income for Ferguson came from court fines and fees, nearly $3 million.
I was astonished at the amount of revenue that's being collected by these municipal courts. Ferguson's municipal court collects $2.7 million in revenue from traffic tickets, fines, and bond forfeitures. Now, that's not all traffic tickets, that's other court fines also. The neighboring municipality is Florissant, and they collect nearly $3 million.
Robert Williams, who lives in Troy, Missouri, has been jailed several times over the years for a 2006 traffic violation that he is still paying off.
They want their money. They want their money, and it's simple as that.
They believe they're being used as an ATM. That's exactly what they say to me. We're being used as an ATM for this town.
The Arch City study goes on to say these practices destroy the public's confidence in the justice system and create animosity in the community. Thomas Harvey, the lead author of this study, says at a time when law enforcement officials are asking the public for patience and trust, instead they're met with distrust, skepticism, and as we've seen, a lot of anger. Anger related to racial profiling statistics from the Missouri Attorney General that show Ferguson police and other local police departments stop black drivers in disproportionate numbers to white drivers.
I'm not condoning the property damage that went on, but people are mad. I'm trying to explain part of the reason people are so angry.
It gives you the most basic understanding of when people are saying they're being racially profiled, when they say they're being harassed.
Patricia Bynes, Democratic committeewoman for Ferguson Township, says the Arch City report confirms what she already knew.
I wasn't shocked because this is a problem that's been going on in North County for a very long time, but it's startling when you actually have the numbers in front of you. It cannot be denied anymore that there's a serious systemic problem here.
Systemic problems exposed in the aftermath of the Mike Brown shooting.
If Mike Brown and Officer Wilson had never come into contact that day, everything we wrote in that report would still be true.